Peter Obi is not just a noise. Right now, the Nigerian political terrain is temperate. Not too hot, not too cold. I'm just having fun watching as the melodrama of the jostle for power among presidential hopefuls unfolds day by day, before it turns too sour to munch on. All I do now is to enjoy the sweetened comestibles of political campaigns that have not yet begun in full and flying swing. The wind of politics blowing today from the four corners of the Nigerian space is now either batified, obified, or articulated. Batified Nigerians are the ones in the bathtub of frenzied loyalty to the All Progressives Congress standard bearer Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. At the turn of specific seasons of life and in set times buried in the exclusive knowledge of divinity, humanity expresses the birthing of some special breed of beings who have been masked to carry out specific assignments on behalf of specific territories and nations. Bola Tinubu is one. A bawling voice in the wilderness of Nigerian politics. Those who love him are very many. Those who despise him are not few either. Tinubu's batified battalion believes this season is the fat phenomenon's turn to be made king, and it is increasingly becoming obvious that the duel for who wears the bedded crown next year may be between Tinubu and a rising challenger in the former Anambra State Governor Peter Obi. The obedient are Nigerian bow wows who want to hear nothing about anything else or anyone else but Peter Obi. They are fiery and feisty foot soldiers, and they have taken over the media space. The deaf everywhere hears them. In the north, they are knocking on doors. In the south, they shout. They are intentionally loud. They aren't kidding around. They want power in 2023. Their desideratum is to see authority change hands from the old one to the new, and they see themselves as the new. As a matter of fact, they make Obi look new, though he has been around for a while, pitched his tents with 3 political parties for about 2 decades, and is a household nomenclature, especially in the south. But don't tell them Peter Obi is part of the past. They will eat you up alive. Go and ask Femi Kuti, the Lagos-based Nigerian musician and the eldest son of Afrobeat pioneer Fela Kuti. Femi's unpardonable sin was to declare his support for no presidential candidate. Obedience launched and snarled at him, threatening to raise the 60-year-old out of the tracks of history. Obedient and joking. Well, there's a bit of falsity in that how it's described, because Femi Kuti did not just express his neutrality in supporting anybody. He did make comments about Peter Obi as well. So yeah, let's also, I think, yes, the youth that are the obedient are very much assertive and intentional to make their stance very clear, but you call them feisty and fiery, who, foot soldiers that are just out here, and anybody says I don't want Peter Obi, they pounce and batter your head. I think it's a bit extreme. Well, while some are threatening fire and brimstones to raise any opposition, others are raising money. Obi is shoveling in cash, running into billions of naira to prosecute his cause. A friend organizing for Obi invited me to a fundraiser scheduled for Los Angeles soon. Another fund drive is scheduled for the end of the month in Houston. My friends, Obi is no mere noise. He is poised to steal the show from those who have always been showcased on the purlieu of power. His profile is rising in charms and chimes as his followership balloons. New converts drawn to his gospel are swelling in size. His thumpers are from everywhere. They are young and old. Obi is making forays in unexpected cohort. The cohort we built in support of Yemi Osinbajo during the party primaries now has more than half of the members swinging to Obi, and they are Yoruba, Igbo, and all. They seem to have found a home in Obi's tent. Obi has not changed talking populist economic sense. What he talks about appeals to ordinary Nigerians. How long the talk will sway Nigerians is what we aren't sure of. It's very biased, to be honest. I think the writer's opinion on obedience is forging ahead. I think the writer is trying to still keep the balance of neutrality by not being too extreme, but also being, evidently extreme by talking about obedience in a way where you can't necessarily argue, but then there are also little details of, of false facts, and I think that in itself is a problem, to be honest. We can't deny the fact that obedience are very assertive, and they are very, to be honest, if you speak anything that is against their supporter or against their leader that is challenging to what they believe their leader's character is, that in itself would trigger them to want to defend themselves. And to be honest, I think what may just be intimidating, which is unfortunate for those that don't support Peter Obi, is the level of intensity to which obedience are, supporting Peter Obi. And I think in this case, really, to be honest, the unfortunate, part of it is the fact that I think those that support other candidates do not feel like their voice can be heard, or their voices can be heard, in fact of just expressing, this is who my candidate is. And I think it's also the danger of, an overwhelming narrative on social media, whereby if you challenge the overwhelming narrative, you are being, looked at as the opposite, which obviously, isn't right most of the time. But then you have to be realistic. You have Tinubu, Atiku, and Peter Obi. Let's be realistic in terms of funding, in terms of political relevance, awareness, clout, whatever you want to call it, political clout, that's a word. But really, when you look at the likely candidates, not just other candidates that we believe have better ideas, or candidates, we know those that have good ideas, they are struggling with funds, they are struggling with their party being unknown, they are struggling with so many things. And I think, to be honest, if you look at Peter Obi's campaign, for example, yes, he did bring Labour Party to the limelight, but then looking at funding, as this, the writer has put up, yes, Peter Obi is traveling around the world to meet with Nigerians in the diaspora, and even Nigerians in Nigeria are willing to raise funds for his campaign. Nigerians are willing to give their business, structures, their offices to the operations of the Labour Party, especially during the campaigns and elections. So a lot of effort is going into making sure that Peter Obi does the job. And that is why, as much as people are thinking, it's very overwhelming, the obedience, they're being extra, the fact is they are investing a lot. And it also gives them the power to hold Peter Obi accountable if he does not keep up with the expectation or the job description that was expected or demanded from him to be president. Then we can say, excuse me, we put you there. Nigerians should have the right, because if you have somebody like Tinubu who feels entitled to be in a political seat, he must have bought his way there. Because really, why should you feel entitled to being in a seat when really it is the people that should put you there, not you putting yourself there or feeling like you got there by your own efforts? When you feel like you've gotten there by your own efforts and you feel like you're